Two Turtle Doves on the Run. Written by Tuesday Savage, produced by Trouble Twins Publishing. This audiobook has been produced using AI voice technology. Chapter 1. Hero Joiglee gripped the steering wheel of his new-to-him used van, squinting through the frosted windshield as he pulled into the gravel driveway of a small ramshackle farm just outside AuroraQuest. A hand-painted sign nailed to the fence read, "Birds are us, unique avian experiences and rentals." Below it, a smaller sign had been added in scrawled black marker, "No returns, all sales final." "This still does not inspire confidence," Hero muttered, shutting off the engine. He stepped out into the biting December wind, pulling his coat tighter and hunching his neck into his coat like a turtle. It was colder out here, surrounded by fields where the wind could pick up speed than it had been back in town. The farm looked like a Christmas card someone had doodled over in crayon. Picturesque, snow-covered fields dotted with rusted machinery, sagging fences, and a variety of clucking, squawking, and honking birds. A trio of geese strutted past, eyeing Hero with disdain. "Hero Joiglee," a voice boomed from the barn, "the man with the Christmas plan. Good to see you again." Hero turned to see a tall, wiry man with a bushy mustache and a wide grin approaching, his hand extended in greeting. He wore a tattered coat and a wool hat with furry ear flaps, and Hero recognized him immediately as Roy, the bird wrangler who'd supplied the now infamous Partridge with a serious drinking problem. "Roy," Hero said, shaking the man's hand, "thanks for agreeing to this last-minute rental." "No problem," Roy replied, his grin widening. "Heard all about the Partridge incident from Dixie Helia when she brought him back. Gotta say, I ain't laughed that hard in years." Hero winced. "Yeah, about that. Turns out your bird has a thing for booze." Roy let out a booming laugh. "Old Thumpy? Oh yeah, he's got a beak for the sauce, that one. Should have warned you to keep the liquor locked up, but hey, live and learn, right?" "Right," Hero muttered, silently vowing to never trust Roy's judgment again. "Anyway," Roy continued, clapping Hero on the shoulder, "you're here for the turtle doves. Got 'em all ready for you. Real beauties, these two. Symbol of love, devotion, and all that jazz. Perfect for a wedding." Hero followed Roy to a small coop near the barn, where two innocent-looking white doves perched on a wooden roost, their feathers gleaming like freshly fallen snow. They cooed softly, tilting their heads as Hero approached. "They're calm," Hero said cautiously, remembering Thumpy's erratic behavior. "Oh, these guys are tame as can be," Roy assured him. "Wings are clipped too, so no flying off and causing trouble." Hero frowned. "And no weird habits I should know about? No drinking, fighting, or Partridge-level mischief?" Roy chuckled. "Nah, they're perfect angels. Well, except for a little curiosity, they like shiny things, but that's normal for birds." Hero nodded, deciding not to overthink it. "All right, let's get them packed up." Roy handed Hero a small travel cage with the doves inside, then leaned in conspiratorially. "So you attaching the wedding rings to them, huh? Fancy." "That's the plan," Hero said, holding the cage carefully. "They're supposed to fly. Well, walk now, down the aisle and deliver the rings to the couple. The bride said she saw it in a dream when she was a little girl, and she just knew she would always have doves deliver the rings at her wedding." "Romantic," Roy declared. "You'll knock their socks off, Joiglee. You got the rings?" Hero took the ring box from his pocket. "Yup. How are we going to attach them?" Roy opened the cage and took one of the birds out. "Give me a ring." Hero fumbled the box open. Roy smiled as he gazed down at the rings. "They are nice?" He took a ring and, using a small padded twist tie, soon had the ring attached to the bird. It shook its leg at the unfamiliar sensation, but settled down almost immediately. Roy repeated the procedure with the second ring and bird. "There you go, nothing to it. They are dressed and ready for the big event." "Thanks again," Hero said as he carried them to the van, setting them on the back seat and strapping the cage in. "No problem. Just remember, don't let the little one out of your sight. She's sneaky." Hero froze. "Which one's the little one?" As far as he could tell before Roy unceremoniously loaded them into the crate, they were the same size. Roy just grinned, giving Hero a cheerful wave as he climbed into the van. The drive back to AuroraQuest was uneventful, but Hero couldn't shake the feeling that he was hurtling toward another disaster. Roy's last grin had seemed more than a little shifty, and the memory of it was making him nervous. Still, He was determined to make this wedding perfect and prove that he wasn't just a walking disaster. After the partridge fiasco, he needed a win, not just for his reputation, but for himself. By the time he arrived at the town hall, set squarely in the center of Aurora Quest, it had been transformed into a winter wonderland. Sparkling lights framed the windows, snowflake garlands hung from the ceiling, and an enormous Christmas tree stood in one corner, its branches glittering with ornaments. Fake snowscapes adorned every last window. Hero parked the rattly old van in the back of the building. He jumped out of the driver's seat and grabbed the cage to head inside. In his hurry, he slipped on a patch of black ice. His feet skittered, and as he tried to regain his balance, his arms flailed, sending the doves slamming around inside the cage as the cage banged into the side of the van. The instant he had his balance back, he hugged the cage close to peer inside. The doves stared back at him, but didn't seem to be injured, just a little ruffled. The rings were still securely attached to their legs, and everything, as far as he could tell anyway, looked fine. He glanced around quickly to make sure no one had noticed his near miss. With a sigh, relieved no one was in the parking lot to witness his rough handling of the delicate birds, he carefully hurried the rest of the way to the back door and inside the town hall. Hero set the dove's cage on a table near the altar, glad he wouldn't have to attach the rings later. Right now, there was still decorating to do, and everything needed to be flawless. He turned to grab a box of ribbons to tie to the chairs, but before he could take a step, a small, mischievous laugh caught his attention. "What you doin', mister?" Hero turned to see a boy of about 5 years old standing by the table, his eyes wide with curiosity. He had a mop of curly hair and a grin that suggested trouble was his middle name and possibly his first. "Hi there," Hero said cautiously. "You must be the groom's son." The boy nodded. "I'm Timmy. Are those birds for the wedding?" The boy climbed up on a chair next to the table so he could see into the cage better. "They are," Hero said, smiling. "They're very special, so we have to be gentle with them, okay?" Timmy's eyes lit up. "Can I see them?" Hero hesitated. Well, maybe later. But Timmy had already unlatched the cage. "Wait, no." Hero lunged, but it was too late. With a flutter of wings and a chorus of startled coos, the turtle doves burst from the cage, soaring into the rafters and disappearing among the decorations. Hero stared in horror as Timmy giggled. Oops. Chapter 2. Hero froze for a split second, staring up at the rafters where the two doves perched, their white feathers nearly blending in with the snowflake garlands strung between the beams. His heart thudded as one of them hopped along a garland, cooing softly, the glittering wedding ring on its leg catching the light. "Oh, no, no, no," Hero muttered. Timmy, still standing on the chair, leaned back and folded his arms. "You're not very good at keeping birds in cages, mister." Hero shot him a look. Not helping Timmy. He glanced around the hall, searching for something, anything that could help him corral the birds. A broom leaned against the wall near the kitchen door, and Hero grabbed it, wielding it like a makeshift shepherd's crook. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "I've got this." Just nudge them down gently, no sudden movements. He climbed onto the same chair Timmy had been using, wobbling slightly as he extended the broom toward the nearest dove. The bird cocked its head at him, unimpressed, before hopping to another beam just out of reach. "Seriously?" Hero muttered, shifting his weight and stretching further. The second dove fluttered its wings and took off, swooping low over the altar before landing on the Christmas tree in the corner. Ornaments jingled and swung dangerously as the bird settled onto a branch. Hero groaned as he had visions of the partridge and the pear tree. He did not want a repeat of that fiasco. His grip tightened on the broom and wished it was a net. Timmy giggled. "You're not very good at this either, mister." "Timmy," Hero said through gritted teeth, "why don't you go find your mom or dad and tell them the birds are loose?" Timmy shrugged. "Okay." He hopped down from the chair and trotted off, humming Jingle Bells under his breath. "Great," Hero muttered. "I'll just handle this myself. I'm a problem solver. It's what I do. I solve problems. Nothing to it. How hard can it be to catch a couple of little birds?" Over the next 10 minutes, Hero's attempts to catch the doves went from bad to worse, and he discovered just how hard it was to catch 2 little birds. First, he tried shaking the broom at the bird perched on the Christmas tree. Instead of flying down, it climbed higher, jostling a glittery angel topper that toppled and shattered on the floor. Hero swore the dang thing laughed at him. "Perfect," Hero muttered, wincing at the sound of crunching glass as he stepped closer. Next, he tried luring the birds with a handful of breadcrumbs from the caterer's supply table. The doves, apparently unimpressed by his offering, remained firmly out of reach. Hero's frustration mounted as crumbs spilled across the pristine white tablecloth. Finally, in a moment of desperation, he grabbed a decorative snowflake garland and fashioned it into a makeshift lasso. He climbed onto a table for better reach, swinging the garland overhead like a cowboy. "All right, you little troublemakers," he muttered, narrowing his eyes at the birds. "Time to—" Whoa! The table wobbled under his weight, and Hero toppled backward, landing in a heap of ribbon and cans of fake snow. The top popped off one can and sprayed fake snow all over his face, in his mouth, and up his nose, making him choke and sputter as he tried to get back on his feet. What on earth is going on in here? Hero looked up from the floor to see the bride, a tall woman with perfectly coiffed blonde hair and a dress straight out of a Victorian fairy tale, standing in the doorway. Her eyes widened as she took in the mess. Crumbs on the table, broken ornaments on the floor, the Christmas tree listing dangerously to one side on the verge of collapse, and Hero sprawled among the wreckage with a snowflake garland tangled around his shoulders, covered in fake snow. Hero struggled to his feet, brushing fake snow off his coat and wiping it from his eyes. He had to resist the urge to spit out the fake snow. It would be a bad idea to spit on the floor in front of the bride. Small hiccup, nothing to worry about. The bride's eyes narrowed. "Where are the doves?" Hero hesitated, pointing toward the rafters where one bird still perched. The other was now nestled comfortably on the altar, its beady eyes fixed on Hero as if daring him to try again. "And the rings?" the bride asked, her voice dangerously calm. Hero winced. "Still attached. I've got it under control, I swear." The bride pinched the bridge of her nose. "You'd better. If my doves don't deliver those rings on time, you're going to wish you'd never set foot in Aurora Quest." She turned on her heel and marched back out, leaving Hero to mutter under his breath as he glared at the dove, tantalizingly close on the altar. "I'm already starting to feel that way." A door creaked open at the back of the hall, and Hero turned just in time to see one of the caterers step inside, balancing a towering tray of hors d'oeuvres. "Wait, don't." Hero's warning came too late. The second dove, startled by the noise, took off from the altar and swooped low over the caterer's head. The poor man ducked instinctively, sending the tray of mini quiches flying. Hors d'oeuvres rained down in every direction, splattering the floor and narrowly missing Hero's boots. Hero was glad that it was only a single tray of hors d'oeuvres that had been lost and not the wedding cake. The caterer looked up, horrified. "What was that?" "A dove," Hero said grimly. "A very expensive dove. Whatever you do, keep the wedding cake safe." The caterer saluted and retreated back into the kitchen to spread the word. The bird circled the hall once before landing on the chandelier above the dance floor. Hero sighed, rubbing his temples. "Okay, Joiglee, time for Plan D." As he reached for his phone to call Dixie, he muttered to himself, "Why couldn't it have been pigeons? No one cares if you lose a couple of pigeons." Chapter 3. Hero's fingers hovered over the phone screen, hesitating. Calling Dixie felt like admitting defeat. After the partridge incident, he could already imagine the smirk on her face when she saw the state of things, and he wasn't sure he could handle another round of her sarcastic commentary. But the chandelier bird shifted slightly, causing the light fixture to sway precariously, and Hero knew he didn't have a choice. With a resigned sigh, he tapped her number. The phone barely rang once before Dixie answered. "Dixie Helia, Animal Control. Who's terrorizing the local wildlife now?" Hi Dixie, it's Hero Joiglee," he said, cringing at how pathetic he sounded. "I need help." There was a pause, and then a laugh. "Oh, this ought to be good. Let me guess, more drunken birds?" "Not exactly," Hero muttered, glancing at the doves. One was preening itself on the chandelier while the other cooed smugly from its perch on a rafter. "They're sober, just uncooperative." "I'm intrigued. Where are you?" "Town hall. And, you might want to bring a net." Hero felt something plop onto his shoulder. He looked and groaned. He glared up at the dove on the chandelier and he swore it was laughing about pooping on him. And a tranquilizer gun. Dixie laughed. I'm sure it's not that bad. I'll be there in 5. It didn't take long for Dixie to arrive. Hero was crouched on the floor, broom in hand, watching the chandelier bird like a hawk when the back door creaked open. Well, 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 Dixie said, stepping inside. Her khaki animal control jacket was unzipped, revealing a festive red sweater with a cartoon reindeer wearing sunglasses. She surveyed the chaos with an amused smile. Looks like someone's losing a battle of wits with a couple of turtle doves. I guess I should have brought the tranquilizer gun. Ha ha, Hero deadpanned, straightening up. They've got the wedding rings, Dixie. I need them back before the ceremony starts, or the bride's gonna kill me, and then I'll haunt you for laughing at my funeral. Dixie smirked, tossing a small duffel bag onto the floor. Relax, Joiglee. You called the right person. I deal with stubborn animals for a living. Dixie pulled a collapsible net and a handheld scanner from her bag. She raised an eyebrow. Tell me you didn't rent these birds from Roy again. Hero sighed. I didn't have a choice. I got this commission on short notice, and for the record, he said they were tame as can be. Dixie snorted. Roy would sell a crocodile as a lapdog if it meant making a quick buck. Did he at least mention the tracking tags? Hero blinked. The what? Dixie held up the scanner. Tracking tags. Roy puts them on his rental birds so he can find them if they fly the coop. Didn't he tell you? Nope, Hero muttered. But he laughed about the partridge. Dixie rolled her eyes and turned on the scanner. A soft beep echoed through the hall as she swept it toward the rafters. The device pinged louder as it locked onto the bird on the chandelier. Found one. They've got tags. This should be easy peasy, Dixie said. She handed Hero the scanner. Keep an eye on the other one. I'll deal with this guy. Dixie moved with quiet precision, unfolding the net and creeping toward the dance floor. The chandelier bird ruffled its feathers, watching her warily. Nice and easy, Dixie murmured. She positioned herself directly beneath the light fixture, her muscles tensed. Just a little closer. She leapt, swinging the net upward. The bird squawked and flapped its wings, but Dixie was faster. She snagged the ring-wearing troublemaker mid-flight, the net tangling around its body as it let out a disgruntled coo. One down, Dixie said, grinning as she carefully untangled the bird and secured it in the cage on the table. Hero watched, equal parts impressed and annoyed. Show off. Hey, I'm just good at my job, Dixie shot back. Hero grimaced. Unlike me? She smiled at him. I don't know, I heard you impress the pants off old Myrtle last weekend after you destroyed her ancient pear tree. Hero grinned. Well, yeah. Dixie smirked, and Hero quickly cut off the retort he knew was coming his way. I never saw anyone pantless, Dixie laughed. If you say so. She gestured toward the rafters. Your turn, the other one's all yours. Flush it out so I can get it with the net. Hero groaned, but held up the scanner. The second bird hadn't moved from its perch in the rafters. He grabbed the broom and climbed onto a chair, wobbling as he reached for the garland. Careful, Dixie called. Wouldn't want to fall and embarrass yourself in front of me. Again. Hero muttered something under his breath about sarcastic redheads but nudged the bird off the garland. It swooped low as Dixie swung the net and landed on the Christmas tree. Oh, come on, Hero exclaimed. Need a hand? Dixie asked, grinning as she twirled her net. She handed Hero a smaller net from her bag. He dropped the broom to take the net from her. He gave it a couple of practice swooshes to get a feel for it. I've got this, Hero said, his jaw set. He climbed down and marched toward the tree, determined to catch the bird without her help. The dove hopped to another branch, jingling ornaments as it moved higher. Hero climbed onto a nearby table, his net ready. All right, you feathery little thief, he muttered. Time to? Before he could finish, the precariously leaning tree swayed under the bird's weight and toppled the rest of the way sideways. Hero barely jumped out of the way as it crashed to the floor in a flurry of tinsel and shattered ornaments. Dixie burst out laughing, leaning against the wall for support. Hero glared at her, not helping. After several more failed attempts and one close call involving a tray of champagne glasses, Hero finally gave in. All right, he said, hands on his hips. You win. What's the plan, oh wise and fearless animal control officer? Dixie smirked, holding up her net. Follow my lead, Joiglee. and try not to knock over anything else. Together, they cornered the remaining dove, which had finally taken refuge near the altar. Dixie used the scanner to track its movements while Hero blocked its escape routes. With a well-timed swoop of her net, Dixie snagged the bird, securing the second ring-bearing troublemaker. 2 for 2, Dixie said, handing the bird to Hero. Not bad, huh? Hero let out a sigh of relief, cradling the bird gently. Thanks, seriously. Don't mention it, Dixie said, brushing tinsel off her jacket. But maybe next time consider pigeons. Less drama, just toss some breadcrumbs on the floor and they'll stick around. Chapter 4. Hero stood near the altar, both doves safely back in their cage, the rings still securely attached to their legs and wings now expertly clipped by Dixie to prevent flight. He let out a deep breath, his heart still racing from the adrenaline of their escapades. Around him, the town hall was a war zone of toppled decorations, crushed quiches, and the remnants of a once pristine Christmas tree. Well, Dixie said, leaning against the altar with her arms crossed, that was memorable. Memorable, Hero echoed, dragging a hand down his face. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Dixie smirked. Don't worry, no one will notice the mess once the lights are dimmed and the music starts. Romance covers a multitude of sins. Hero glanced at her, a reluctant smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Is that an official animal control motto? Nope, Dixie replied, pushing off the altar. Just good advice from someone who's seen her fair share of ridiculous weddings. Before Hero could respond, the bride swept back into the hall, her train trailing behind her like a snowdrift. She froze mid-step, her gaze locking onto the cage. You caught them? She asked, her voice a mixture of disbelief and hope. Hero straightened, holding up the cage proudly. Safe and sound, and the rings are still attached. The bride let out a high-pitched squeal of relief. Oh, thank goodness, you're a lifesaver. Team effort, Hero said, glancing at Dixie, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Excellent. Now get this mess cleaned up. The ceremony starts in 15 minutes, and guests are beginning to arrive. I've got my bridesmaids and the photographer stalling everyone outside for pre-wedding photos, but that won't hold them long, the bride said and swept out again. Understood, Hero said to her back. Come on, I'll give you a hand. I've known Samantha all my life, and there will be hell to pay if you aren't ready on time. Dixie said, grabbing the broom and starting to sweep the crushed hors d'oeuvres from the floor. Thanks, you don't have to. You've already done enough for me. Hero said, picking the tree up and resetting it in the holder. He began picking up the decorations and putting them back on the tree with a lot less attention to detail than he'd used to decorate it the day before. Nonsense. You're the most interesting thing to happen to this town in the last century. She smiled as she looked up at him. Hero was pleased to see that she was blushing. Dixie looked back down at the floor and swept furiously. Hero went back to fixing the tree, feeling a warm, not unpleasant glow on his own face. Minutes later, the ceremony began. Hero stood at the back of the hall, watching as the doves, this time under Dixie's strict supervision, were released from their cage. They waddled gracefully down the aisle, the rings glittering on their legs as the crowd let out a collective, "Ah!" Hero held his breath, half expecting another catastrophe, but the doves reached the altar without incident. Dixie knelt and picked the doves up so the bride and groom could remove the rings, and the guests erupted in applause. Well, that went better than I expected, Hero whispered to Dixie, as she slipped in beside him after returning the doves to their cage. I'm impressed, Dixie admitted. Not a single chandelier was harmed during the exchange of vows. Hero snorted as he watched the bride and groom, busy posing for photos, their earlier stress forgotten, and the guests enjoying the reception as the music began. Don't jinx it. After the ceremony and reception, Hero stayed to help clean up the remnants of his earlier disasters. As Hero swept up broken ornaments, Dixie appeared at his side, holding 2 glasses of champagne. You earned this, she said, handing him one. Hero accepted it with a small smile. Thanks, and thanks for saving my butt back there. Anytime, Dixie said, clinking her glass against his. But I'm starting to think you might be a chaos magnet, Joiglee. Hero chuckled. Starting to? Pretty sure I've been one my whole life. Dixie studied him for a moment, her expression softening. Well, chaos or not, you pulled it off. The wedding was a success. People will be talking about it for years. I'm not sure that's a good thing, Hero muttered, but there was a warmth in his tone. Dixie's lips quirked into a smile. It is in Aurora Quest. We like a good story, and you've given us plenty. Hero tilted his glass toward her. To good stories, then. To good stories, Dixie echoed, clinking her glass against his. As they sipped their champagne, Hero felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he hadn't completely ruined things. Everyone had seemed to have a good time, and the bride had gotten her dream of doves delivering the rings. Myrtle had even taken a break from teaching Timmy how to break dance to come over and tell him that her orchard business was booming after the party last week. Maybe, just maybe, he was starting to find his footing, not just with his business, but in this town. Dixie nudged him with her elbow. So what's next? Any big plans to top this one? Hero groaned. Please don't give the universe ideas. Dixie laughed, her voice ringing out like a bell over the hum of the reception as it wound down. For the first time all day, Hero let himself relax. Sure, there would be more chaos in his future. It was practically guaranteed. But for now, he was content. He had pulled off a successful wedding, had gotten praise from a previous client, and was enjoying the company of a beautiful woman who seemed to be enjoying his company too. What more could he want? If you enjoyed this story, please consider buying a copy, like, subscribe, and check the playlist for the next episode. Thanks for listening. Tuesday Savage.